Hi guys, hope you are having a sunny day. Ready for new stories Ask a Lawyer prepared for you? Let's go to the first one, about OP's husband, who is demanding his affair partner and their affair child are invited for Thanksgiving with OP's family. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment. So, about 6 years ago, right after our son was born, my husband, David, had an affair with his co-worker at the time, Katie, who was also married. She has since gotten divorced. I would never have found out if David hadn't ended things and confessed to me. I was heartbroken, but with a lot of therapy, a job change, and years of hard work, we've managed to save our marriage and even had another kid. Up until last year, we were actually doing really well and considering renewing our vows for our 10th anniversary. That's when Katie contacted us, asking if David would take a paternity test for her daughter, Olivia, who is about a year younger than my son. Sure enough, Olivia was my husband's kid. This past year has been really tough. David started paying child support, and now his name is on Olivia's birth certificate. It was Katie's ex-husband before. We have not told our kids, 6 and 3, that they have a half-sister, and I have not met Olivia yet. David and I have been talking with Katie about how best to navigate the new relationship. And David has spent some time with Olivia, limited due to the current events, but he's taken her to the park a few times and has Zoom called her pretty regularly. David has been trying really hard to be active in Olivia's life, and so he has asked me if he could invite Kate and Olivia to spend Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas morning with us. I immediately said no. I really don't think the holidays are the best time to explain to my kids that Daddy has another daughter. And frankly, I don't want Katie in my house, especially since my parents are coming for Thanksgiving this year, and I never told them about the whole affair situation. My husband is frustrated because he knows Katie doesn't really have any family in the area, and apparently she was crying to him the other day about how it's just her and Olivia now. I feel for her, I really do. But this whole year has just been a roller coaster, and I feel like I've hit my limit. I suggested to David that he celebrate part of both days with us and then go over to Katie's after, but he feels like that would even be harder to explain to the kids. I'm at my wit's end. I know my husband is just trying to be a good father, but this all feels so soon, and I feel like I'm being pressured into this. I could make a whole other post about my issues with Katie and David's co-parenting relationship, but I want to focus on just this one issue for the post. Am I being an evil stepmother? Edit. Just to clarify, we asked if Olivia could come over on her own. Katie is not comfortable with it, and Olivia is only 5, so I get it. Edit 2. I've seen a couple people unclear about the timeline, kids' ages. The affair started after my son was born, and Olivia is 13 months younger than my son, conceived when my son was around 16 to 17 weeks old, if my math is correct. My husband and I did not know about Olivia until she was 5. My son is 6, going on 7, Halloween baby, and my daughter is 3. I have no reason to believe the affair went on longer than my husband told me. Really? I feel for Katie? I would have zero sympathy and reserve for the woman who slept with my husband and got herself pregnant by him, and now is crying that she is lonely at Christmas. Frankly, I question that she should be crying or bawling to OP's husband either, or that he should be allowing it. Christmas is not the time to surprise your children with their father's love child. OP is definitely not an a-hole. OP's husband and Katie certainly are, though, for thinking any of this plan is acceptable or reasonable. My 24 female, amazing boyfriend, 25 male, Fred, not real names, and I have been dating for about 8 months. Although, if you asked him, he'd say it's been 5. We moved in together when the situation began, mostly because it was the safest way to keep seeing each other. Fred has a twin sister, Sally, and also a childhood friend, Millie, and they are both his flatmates. Honestly, I love Sally and Millie. They're very different from me. All 3 of them are always talking about weird things and don't care if I'm in the loop. To be fair, Sally's tried to be nice, always washing my dishes, although I don't ask her to do that, or asking if I want her to wash my clothes, and always asking me what I want to watch on Netflix when we all sit down to watch it. Millie and I don't really talk, Fred says she's just painfully shy. Anyway, Fred and Sally are really close in ways that make me really uncomfortable. Like, Fred will get up in the morning to make breakfast shirtless. He's built, but he lives with his sister and another girl, so it's kind of weird. And he'll bring it to Sally's room before he and I sit in the kitchen to eat. Or we'll be sitting in the couch watching TV, and she'll put her head on his shoulder when I'm cuddling him. He's always kissing her forehead, and I've never slut-shamed anyone, but she's always wearing like really short shirts and crop tops. It's not even that warm, and she lives with her brother. Also, I don't have siblings, but do they say I love you so much? So the other night we're watching this show she likes, because Fred also likes it, and he said we'd only seen movies I like. And she again puts her head on his shoulder. He puts his head on hers, and he stops cuddling me. He put his knees up and blocked me. I turn to her and go, "Maybe you do need a boyfriend," or something like that, as a joke. And she didn't take it as a joke. She was so offended. She started ranting about how mean that was, how she's a lesbian and has a girlfriend. I know. And she even said she's never trusted me. Fred was also pissed. He asked me if I was going to get jealous of their cat, too. I literally started crying and locked myself in our room. They just kept watching TV. Later, he came to our room and said he wasn't apologizing, and that his sister was also crying because she's tried really hard with me, and I keep being mean to her. I tried to remind him I'm not the jealous type. If I was, I wouldn't date him. He's bi, and he slept with so many girls and guys, but I never let that change what I think of him. And he got pissed again, and has been really cold since. It's been almost 24 hours. He didn't make me breakfast or lunch. He cooks everything here. But he's still lovely to his sister. Anyway, I feel a little guilty now. Like I should have talked to him before. But they seem to have this little club I'm not allowed in, and that hurts. Plus, she was also really rude to me. Am I the a-hole, or was it just not the right moment? Yes, OP is an a-hole, big time. No other way around it. OP is insecure and creating issues over nothing. I think OP is seriously jealous of her boyfriend's sister. I'm sorry OP doesn't have any close family relationships, but it is very normal. Also sounds like OP lives there like a queen. Everyone makes breakfast and lunch for her, washes her dishes, and cleans her clothes, and she is still complaining. Last Sunday, we celebrated my father-in-law's birthday. My boyfriend, 37, myself, and my teenage daughter were invited, as was my sister-in-law, her husband, her boyfriend, and her husband's girlfriend. They've been in this polyamorous relationship for about 2 years, and they all get along fine. All fine with me. Sister-in-law, PhD in neuropsychology, left the rational world after a burnout and became quite spiritual. Into healings, yoga, gluten-free, afraid of Wi-Fi radiation, miracle powders. It's not a pyramid scheme, it's a network approach. That type. Sister-in-law believes in aliens, or ETs as she calls them. Husband, boyfriend, and girlfriend are all utterly convinced of this as well. She thinks her ET guide, let's call him D, aliens have their privacy as well, uses her to heal people. We think they're all crazy as hell, but hey, live and let live. We only see them like twice or 3 times a year anyway. They do know we don't believe in any of that crap and do not want to be involved. Last Sunday, at my father-in-law's house, boyfriend declared to my boyfriend that he's an uncle. I was quite surprised, knowing sister-in-law's infertile. But boyfriend explained that they had an invisible child together. About a year ago, sister-in-law got pregnant because the ET doctors had said so. After a few months, she went to a human doctor who told her she wasn't and had never been pregnant. A lot of confusion, but she still believed she was pregnant. Surely the ETs wouldn't lie. 6 months later, she gave birth to an energetic child. The child then went to live with D on his starship. All this while we kept a straight face. The boyfriend asked if we would like to meet this imaginary alien baby. We weren't too thrilled, but they kinda pushed it. Funny side note, the baby was with another alien since D was on holiday. At this point, I couldn't hold it back any longer and cried with laughter. No hard feelings from their side, by the way. After I calmed down, my sister-in-law started channeling. Eyes fluttering, rapid arm movements, heavy breathing, talking in a strange tone of voice, and just taking a lot of time. She let the baby talk to us, wanting us to sing a song, making us all hold hands, etc. Later, boyfriend said they were trying to bring the baby back to Earth, where lizard people live, who could transform into humans. If the baby would be there, then it could take a human form, and they could all be reunited. We just sat it out. The whole afternoon had just been about them. Very little attention from my father-in-law. When we drove home, boyfriend was furious. He's really fed up and doesn't want to ever see his sister again because they just can't keep their craziness to themselves. I'm slightly more nuanced. I suggested not meeting them like this again, but occasionally meeting his sister on, for example, her own birthday, when the day really is about her. But he's just really through with her, them. Would we be the a-holes if we cut her out completely? I think OP needs to call CPS. That doesn't sound like a safe home environment for their imaginary child. I, 34, have been struggling with infertility since my husband and I decided to have a kid. I've had 4 miscarriages in the past 2 years, all late term. These experiences were horrible, and all caused due to my weight. I weigh 430 pounds. I have tried to lose weight since then, but always fail. Sister-in-law, 30, is overall a good person. She's a very beautiful woman. She's a stay-at-home mom and is very involved in charities nowadays. My sister-in-law has one son named Klaus. He's a cute toddler and I love him to death. I always feel a bit sad though, as he was born on the same date that my first child was due. I've always been jealous of how quickly she got pregnant, and she's always been oblivious to the problems that actual women face when trying to conceive. This all happened when they were staying in one of sister-in-law's mansions in Switzerland. My mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law husbands, sister-in-law, Klaus, extended family, my husband, and I were all together for mother-in-law birthday weekend. Mother-in-law's sister scheduled a girls' day for all of us. I've always felt out of place with them, being obese in a room full of tall, blonde, model-esque women. All they talk about is exotic vacations and other rich bee stuff. I was zoning out when they started to talk about sister-in-law being pregnant with her second child. When sister-in-law mentioned how long it took to conceive, saying for the 2 months they were trying, she thought she had gone infertile. All of the aunts and mother-in-law laughed, saying their second child also took that long to conceive. One of the aunts said she shouldn't have worried because it always works out for Anderson women when it comes to babies. I was fuming. They all knew about my struggles, and I have asked them not to talk about this stuff in front of me before. I just broke down and yelled that sister-in-law knew nothing about being infertile, and that 2 months was nothing when it comes to getting pregnant, and how she tries miscarrying before she worries about being infertile. I just yelled about how insensitive they've all been when it comes to this crap before I just left. I left in my car, and apparently they did too, because when I got back, they were already there. My husband then asks me to apologize to sister-in-law because it genuinely hurt her feelings. I told him that I wasn't going to, and then went to her and told her she can go duck herself. She was playing with Klaus in the living room, and I know I shouldn't have said that in front of him. Father-in-law then asked me to leave if I was going to keep acting like this. My husband came out to talk with me before I said that I was going to leave and go home. He said he was going to stay for mother-in-law's birthday party, but would come home after, which pissed me off even more. My friends say I'm not the a-hole, but my husband and his family say I am. So, am I the a-hole for yelling at my sister-in-law? Yes, I think OP is an a-hole. I understand her experience and feel sorry for her. It's very hard. I can't even imagine what the feeling must be like, to lose a child like that. Something you desperately want. It's difficult. However, just because her experience is worse than sister-in-law doesn't mean she gets to downplay her experiences or her fears and concerns during that time. It looks like OP has a serious grudge against her for a couple of reasons. She calls her a rich bee and comments on their appearance. She blows up on them for talking about their life. They weren't insulting OP. OP insulted them in front of children, and insulting them in front of their own family. I think OP needs to see a therapist. When I was 18, I found out I was pregnant with my boyfriend's 21 child. Although I had only just graduated, I was excited to start a family with him. When I told him the news, he initially seemed excited, but as time went on, he grew less and less interested with me and our child. 2 months into my pregnancy, I broke things off with him for 2 reasons. 1, he was not paying hardly any attention to me. He spent the majority of his free time with his friends, and I started to feel like I was no longer a priority to him. 2, he started drinking. He would have a drink here and there, but he was never a heavy drinker. He would come home wasted, and it was honestly annoying. Taking care of myself was hard enough, and taking care of myself and a drunk boyfriend was too much. To my knowledge, he didn't take our breakup very hard, and I was glad. We decided to stay friends in order to give our child the best possible life. I grew up without my father, and that's the last thing I wanted for my baby. About a month later, I met a really nice guy. We hit it off immediately and started dating not too long after that. He treated me amazing, and I was so grateful to have found someone that loved me the way he did. Throughout my pregnancy, my ex was pretty involved. His interest in our child grew a lot after we broke up, which made me happy. I was glad to know he cared. I had planned for him and my sister to be in the delivery room. However, come my delivery day, he showed up drunk. I was pissed. I made the last-minute decision to have my boyfriend in the delivery room instead of my ex. I told him that I did not want someone drunk in with me while I was giving birth, and he replied, telling me that the alcohol will wear off, and he deserves to be in there, considering how great he's been to me my whole pregnancy. I told him that I wouldn't change my mind, and he proceeded to yell at me, saying how it's just the hormones, and I'll regret having a man I just met in there while I give birth. Over the past 7 years, we've been able to maintain a, for the most part, healthy co-parenting relationship. I am now married to my then boyfriend, and I have no regrets having him in there with me, but my ex is still sour about me not allowing him to be in the delivery room. He is now infertile and is mad I ruined his only chance at being in the delivery room during the birth of his child. So am I the a-hole? OP is definitely not an a-hole. He ruined his chance himself, not OP.